Chapter 6, Part 1. Lily, please hold still, Mother said again. Lily, standing in front of her, fidgeting impatiently. I can tie them myself, she complained. I always have. I know that, Mother replied, straightening the hair ribbons on the little girl's braids. But I also know that they constantly come loose, and more often than not, they're dangling down your back by afternoon today. At least we want them to be neatly tied and to stay neatly tied. I don't like my hair ribbons. I'm glad I only have to wear them on one more ear. Lily had irritatedly. Next year I get my bicycle too, she added more cheerfully. There are good things each year, Jonas reminded her. This year you get to start your volunteer hours. And remember last year when you became a 7, you were so happy to get your front button jacket? The little girl nodded and looked down at herself, at the jacket with its row of large buttons that designated her as a 7. 4, 5, and 6s. 4s, 5s, and 6s were jackets that fastened down the back so that they would have to help each other dress and would learn interdependence. The front button jacket was the first sign of independence, the first very visible symbol of growing up. The bicycle at 9 would be the powerful emblem of moving gradually out into the community, away from the protective family unit. Lily grinned and wriggled away from her mother. And this year you get your assignment, she said to Jonas in an excited voice. I hope you get a pilot. And that you take me flying. Sure I will, said Jonas. And I will get a special little parachute that just fits you. And I'll take you up to, maybe 20,000 feet. And open the door and Jonas, Mother warned. I was only joking, Jonas groaned. I don't want pilot anyway. If I get pilot, I'll put in the appeal. Come on, Mother said. She gave Lily's ribbon a final tug. Jonas, are you ready? Did you take your pills? I want to get a good seat in the auditorium. She prodded Lily to the front door and Jonas followed. It was a short ride to the auditorium. Lily waved to her friends from her seat on the back of Mother's bicycle. Jonas stowed his bicycle beside Mother's and made his way through the throng to find his group. The entire community attended the ceremony each year. For the parents, it meant 2 days holiday from work. They sat together in a huge hall. Children sat with their groups until they went, one by one, to the stage. Father, though, would not join Mother in the audience right away. For the early ceremony, the naming, the nurturers brought the new child to the stage. Jonas, from his place in the balcony with the 11s, searched the auditorium for games for father. It wasn't at all hard to spot the nurturers section at the front. Coming from it were the wails and a howls of the new child who sat squirming on the nurturing's lap. At every other public ceremony, the audience was silent and attentive, but once a year, they all smiled indulgently, indulgently at the commotion from the little ones waiting to receive their names and families. Jonas finally caught his father's eyes and waved. The father grinned and waved back, then held up the hand of the new child on his lap, making it wave too. It wasn't Gabriel. Gabe was back at the nurturing center today, being cared for by the night crew. He had been given an unusual and special reprieve from the committee, and granted an additional year for nurturing before his naming and placement. Father had gone before the committee with a plea on behalf of Gabriel, who had not yet gained the weight appropriate to his days of life nor begun to sleep soundly enough at night to be placed with his family unit. Normally such a new child would be reveled inadequate and released from the community. Instead, as a result of father's play, Gabriel had been labeled uncertain and given an additional year. He would continue to be nurtured at the center and would spend his nights with Jonas's family unit. Each family member, including Lily, had been required to sign a pledge that they would not become attached to this little temporary guest, and that they would relinquish him without protest or peer when he was assigned to his own family unit at next year's ceremony. At least Jonas thought after Gabriel was placed next year, they would still see him often because he would be part of the community. If he were released, they would not see him again, ever. Those who were released, even as new children, were sent elsewhere and never returned to the community. Father had not had to release a single new child this year, so Gabriel would have represented a real failure and sadness. Even Jonas thought, even Jonas, though he didn't hover over the little one the way Lily and his father did, was glad that Gabe had not been released. The first ceremony being right on time, and Jonas watched as one after another, each new child was given a name and handed by the nurturers to its new family unit. For some, it was a first child, but many came to the stage accompanied by another child beaming with pride to receive a little brother or sister, the way Jonas had when he was about to be 5. Asher poked Jonas's arm. Remember when we got Pelipper? He asked in a loud whisper. Jonas nodded. It had only been last year. Asher's parents had waited quite a long time before applying for a second child, maybe Jonas suspected. They had been so exhausted by Asher's lively foolishness that they had needed a little time. Two of their group Fiona and other female Thea named Thea were missing temporarily, waiting with their parents to receive new children. But it was rare that there was such an age gap between children in a family unit. When her family ceremony was completed, Fiona took the seat that had been saved for her in a row ahead of Asher and Jonas. She turned and whispered to them, "He's cute, but I don't like his name very much." She made a face and giggled. Fiona's new brother had been named Bruno. It wasn't a great name, Jonas thought, like Gabriel, for example, but it was okay. The audience applauded, which was enthusiastic at each naming, rose in an exuberant swell when one parental pair, growing with pride, took a male new child and heard him naming Caleb. Caleb. This new Caleb was the replacement child. The couple had lost their first Caleb, a cheered little foal. Loss of a child was very, very rare. The community was extraordinarily safe. Each citizen watchful and protected of all children, but somehow the first little Caleb wandered away unnoticed, and had fallen into the river. The entire community had performed the ceremony of loss together, murmuring the name Caleb throughout an entire day less and less frequently, softer in volume as the long and somber day went on, so that the little four seemed to fade away gradually from everyone's consciousness. Now, at this special naming, the community performed the brief murmur of replacement ceremony, repeating the name for the first time since the loss, softly and slowly at first, then faster and with greater volume, as the couple stood on the stage with the new child sleeping in the mother's arm. It was as if the first couple were returning. Another new child was given the name Roberto, and John remembered that Roberto the Old had been released only last week, but there were no murmur of replacement ceremony for the new little Roberto. Release was not the same as loss. He sat politely through the ceremony of true entry and fell, increasingly bored as he was each year. Then a break for midday meal, served outdoors, and back again to sit for the fives, six, sevens, and finally the last for the day ceremonies, the eight. Jonas watched and cheered as Lily marched proudly to the stage, became an eight, and received an identifying jacket that she would wear this year. This one with smaller buttons for the first time pockets, indicating that she was matured enough now to keep track on her small belongings. She stood solemnly listening to the speech of firm instructions on the responsibilities of eight. and doing volunteer hours for the first time. But Jonas could see that Lily, though she seemed attentive, was looking longingly at the row of gleaming bicycles, which would be present tomorrow morning to the nines. Next year, Lily Billy, Jonas thought. It was an exalting day, and even Gabriel retrieved in his basket from the nurturing center, slept soundly that night. Finally, it was the morning of the ceremony of 12.